Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Sunday Afternoon Smokes, your casual conversation podcast from the upstate of South Carolina. My name is Chris. I'm your host. I'm a realtor. I'm also the owner and operator of The Cigar Box, a mobile cigar bar that serves the upstate and beyond. If you've been enjoying Sunday Afternoon Smokes, I'd appreciate it if you drop me a review. Today, we're venturing outside of the upstate of South Carolina to an undisclosed location. And I'm having a chat with my friend Bob McCoy. Bob, welcome to the show, man.
Thanks for having me here. It's a great pleasure and an honor.
Well, thank you. Those are very kind words. I like to let my guests introduce themselves. So take a minute, say hey, say as much or as little about yourself as you like. And while you do that, I'm going to light my cigar.
Sure, yeah. So I'm Bob McCoy. I am the production director of a clandestine black box media operation called JXB Media. We produce media and art in many forms. And one of our main products right now is called the Glorious Beard Podcast, where we talk about beards and the people who have them. In a former life, I was a drummer in a touring punk rock band. I worked for National Public Radio. I was a charismatic Christian in what could be equated to a cult. So I've worn a lot of hats.
Wow. Okay, there's some new information there that we'll probably field a little bit of that. I'm curious. Before we get into the cigar section, I didn't know you were a drummer, and I am a novice drummer.
Sure.
So I'm excited about, I enjoy it. Of course, I haven't drummed in a while just because of the personal situation, that I'm in.
Right.
But how long did you drum?
Well,
or do you still?
No, I haven't drummed in a while. I grew up in the era where, I grew up in the Southern Appalachian Mountains in West Virginia.
Known for drumming.
Known for, drumming on a moonshine still, maybe.
Right.
But growing up, all we had was basically MTV and the local, pop radio station. And so my exposure to music growing up was primarily through that. And at one point in life, I was probably 10 or 11 years old. I told my mother, I want a drum set. I want a drum set. I want a drum set every year, every Christmas, every birthday. I want a drum set. So finally, she got me this little dinky, kind of not a toy drum set, but not a real drum set out of the Sears catalog. And so every day I would come home from school, and it had to have been 1992, I think. I would come home from school and I would do my best to drum along with the Black Album by Metallica, because Lars Ulrich is not that great of a drummer, despite them being so successful. He's not that great of a drummer. But
I've heard similar and read similar comments.
So I would try my best to play along with the Black Album, Enter Sandman, Sad But True, all of those big hits. And eventually started a band in high school, that kind of thing. And then when I got out of college, I moved to Cincinnati, Ohio, and I started a band with the intention of becoming a rock star, like most musicians do. And to our credit, we did get pretty big. We were really well known on the local scene. We won a bunch of competitions. We won some awards. We played Warped Tour 2 summers and went all over the United States. So it's pretty good. After that, I worked as a touring drummer for a band out of Columbus, Ohio. And that was about the end of it. I tried some projects after that, but it never panned out. So while I have a couple of drum sets in my basement, they haven't been touched in many, many years.
Yeah. Now, you said, though, y'all did really well and that you were, I guess, this close to getting signed?
We had interest at one point from Maverick Records, which at that time was owned by Madonna. It was between us and another band in town, because we were like a pop punk kind of outfit. Green Day was blowing up at that time, and all these other punk bands were blowing up. So kind of like how it happened for grunge bands that were, even on the fringe. major labels came into all these big cities looking for bands to sign. And one night, a scout from Maverick spotted us and wanted to talk to us and whatever. And ultimately, we didn't end up getting that deal, and the other band didn't either. So we were close. We could have had one release that nobody would have ever heard of and made a couple $1,000 off of it. But yeah, it didn't happen.
Well, even if you would have had one release that nobody would have ever heard of, that's just cool to have in your life. You know what I mean? Just to shoot for things and give it a shot and see if you can just put something on the CV. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, I was at that time, I was in that band and excuse me. At that time, I was in that band and also booking shows and booking tours for other bands and stuff like that. So it wasn't like my life wasn't exciting.
So you were like playing and managing.
Yeah, basically.
That sounds like an interesting life, man. I don't know. I've met a couple of managers just because with my cigar business, I do a lot of the local concerts here, and then sometimes they will put me with the cigar trailer backstage with the bands at certain points, and so I'll get to meet a few artists, meet some of their managers, and that just, I don't know, man, that's a whole crazy world just to be trying to manage some musician and their schedule and doing appearances and, I don't know, being the face behind the face.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, and dealing with those people, it's even crazier because when I was booking in this club in Cincinnati, these kind of up and coming bands would come through and their managers would send a tour rider and we'd look at it. And I had a big black marker, one of those really big, thick, fat ones. And I'd look at it and I'd just go marking through all the things that they wanted. And then I'd fax it back to the manager and be like, this is what we're offering you: a stage, a place to play, and X amount of dollars per head. I'll get you a couple of pizzas and a 12-pack. But as far as like, you hear the story about the brown M&Ms and all of that stuff. As far as all of that stuff,
what's the brown M&Ms? I've never even heard of that.
So Van Halen, back in the day, Van Halen had it on their tour rider that there were only brown M&Ms allowed in the dressing room. Out of all of their demands, they only wanted brown M&Ms. All the other M&Ms had to be eliminated. So when they rolled into town, they would know whether or not the person who booked the show paid attention to the rider and was providing them with what they actually needed as far as accommodation. And if they walked in and there were multicolored M&Ms, they almost, to the point of canceling the show because the agreement wasn't met.
Sure. Well, I guess when you're as big as Van Halen, you can do that kind of crap.
Yeah. But I mean, bands that are considered big today, like My Chemical Romance and the White Stripes and stuff like that, those are the kind of bands I was booking before they broke big. And some of them would send in riders that were like Van Halen style riders. And I'd just be like, no. And I just go through and mark it out. I say, you either want to play here or you don't. That's what it comes down to.
Yeah. I don't know. That's crazy, man. That's an interesting story. It's a good nugget for the podcast. So brown M&Ms only. I don't know. Maybe I'll hashtag it in the notes whenever I do the social media post. Brown M&Ms. If you know, you know.
Yeah, if you know, you know. That's true.
All right. Second topic of intrigue that you mentioned, Christianity, but almost to the point of it being a cult. Flesh that out for me.
Right. So I will preface this by saying that I don't have anything against anyone who believes in whatever they believe in. That's fine with me. You do your thing, I'll do mine, and all of that. When I initially got to college, it was a pretty crazy time. My best friend had just been murdered over the summer.
Oh, geez.
And I only really went to college because my mentor, which was my high school social studies teacher, he was a guy, Bill Staples. He would not let me sit around and do nothing. And one day, because he lived 2 houses down from me, and I would always be walking back and forth to the bowling alley. And one day he's in his garage and he goes, "Mr. McCoy, what is your plan for your life?" And I go, "I don't know, Mr. Staples. I'm going bowling right now, though." And he go, "You have to go to college, son. You have to make something out of yourself." And I go, "Oh, I don't know. I haven't planned." And this is only a couple months out from the beginning of a semester. And he goes, "Well, then you're going to go where I went." And then he told me where that was. And I said, "Okay." And he goes, "I'm going to expect you to put in the application." And so I did, and I got accepted, and I got to college. And, like anyone.
That's wild. Just, I mean, that your social studies teacher just says to you, "You're going to go to college here," and so you go. I mean,
Well,
but I don't know your whole family dynamic. There's probably a lot going on there that lent itself to that decision.
my parents had gotten divorced when I was about 10 years old, and my father was chief of police. My mother, for a time, was the bail bondsman. So there was this joke: my dad puts him in, my mom gets him out. And so after that, my brother had already left for the Navy, and I was kind of on my own a lot because my mom was working. She was taking a class at the local college and all that, and she wasn't really around. My dad wasn't around. So my social studies teacher comes to me my senior year of high school, and he goes, "What classes are you taking this year?" And I said, I gave him what I was taking. And he goes, "Well, I need a teacher's assistant, so you're going to be in my class an hour a day in the mornings." I said, "All right." So I got credit for being a teacher's assistant, which was essentially he made his own jams. He made his own homemade jams and sold them at local farmers markets. And he knew I was an artist. I was president of the art club. So my teaching assistant role essentially was comprised of me doing handmade labels for his jam jars every day while
Nice.
I sat in a classroom. But he was also the kind of guy that would make sure that you were up on current events. Like he would quiz you. Part of his class was actually that you had to actually read the physical newspaper and know 3 current events to be able to talk about at the end of the week. He was a Marine when, that kind of thing. And was just never a person that would be one of those teachers that was lazy or sat back and did the bare minimum. He was always very interested in people progressing in their lives. And he took a special shine to me, probably because of who my father was and where I lived in proximity to him. He had, access to me. But I came to form a lot of respect for everything that he said. And one day I was walking by and he's in his garage. "Mr. McCoy, do you listen to music?" And I said, "Yes." And he goes, "Come in here." And I walk in and he's got these crates of vinyl records. And he goes, "I bought all of these records at a yard sale, and you can go through and get whatever you want." So at that time I was into, Aerosmith, Motley Crue, all these bands that were on MTV. And I'm flipping through and I find these original pressings of like Aerosmith records. I didn't have a record player, but I find these original pressings of records and I'm like, "Can I have this one?" "Yes." "Can I have this one?" "Yes." "Can I have this one?" "Yes." Whatever I wanted, he let me take it. And, but then he would always send you off with something like, "Did you see where this, that, and the other was happening in the media?" "Well, no, Mr. Staples, I didn't." "Well, here's one thing to remember." And then he'd give you a nugget of wisdom and send you on your way. So when it came time for me to make a decision about my life after such a rough summer, because my mom also threw me out of the house that summer for being a delinquent, uh, it was really a combination of me not having anywhere to go and listening to the only person in my life that I trusted at that point.
Right.
So I was like, "Yeah, okay, I'll do that." And then I got accepted, and there I was at his alma mater, because that's where he went. And I figured he turned out the way he did, maybe I will too.
Yeah.
So I get to college and I go through my first semester and I make 1 or 2 friends. And the next semester, I'm sitting in math class one day And I was really into punk rock. I'd been finding it in the back of magazines, because in those days, if you flipped in the back of like any popular music magazine, there were advertisements for the independent labels. And I'm looking at these posters and I'm thinking, oh, this is what I'm into. This is what I'm into. This is what I like. Our closest record store was 45 minutes away. And so in walks this woman one day, and I call her a woman because she was older than I was, but she's punked out and a train wreck and a mess and like knocking things off of desks and whatever. And she sits down, and I looked at her and I thought, wow, that woman is punk rock. And I hadn't seen anybody like that yet, like anybody how I wanted to be. And so we get together and we start hanging out and all this, and she's making me dinners and, you know, all that while I'm in college on my own. And I'm like, oh, well, I could go over here and hang out with this lady every night and
It's the perfect storm.
have great dinners and blah, blah, blah. And little did I know I was slowly being groomed, because 6 months later, I'm in this position where I'm only wearing long sleeves. I have a shaved head. I've had to throw my television away, burn all my comic books. I'm being told that all of my thoughts are terrible, and it's very high control. But it's high control to the effect that I did not realize until just a few years ago I was in a cult. Like, it dawned on me one day, that light bulb went off, and I started researching the quote unquote church that I was a part of.
Yeah.
And found out they were actually a cult.
Wow.
You know, I'm 18, 19.
Yeah.
In this place where I don't have any guidance or supervision or anyone looking over me. I married that lady 3 months after I met her, and then was in this place where they were constantly like, oh, well, you shouldn't talk to your family because, you know, they're going to cause you to fall away from God, or we don't watch television because it's all sinful. We don't listen to this music because it'll turn you away. Like, all of these things that you would do were bad. And I was in that for a year and a half, and then got out of it.
How'd you get out?
Well, it came down to a really having a breaking point. It was the day after Christmas, and she had this tendency. She was physically abusive and mentally abusive, emotionally abusive, and she had this tendency to just like flip. It's just like a light switch. And I remember I was sitting at the kitchen table, and I was eating a bowl of cereal. And at that time, I was still in college. I was taking classes. I was working at the local pizza place, delivering pizza. They had a delivery car that I could use because I had to sell all my other possessions, including my car. And so I'm working at this pizza place, and I'm in college, and we've had a child at this point. And I'm sitting there one day, and this is after a trip to her sister's house where we just argued and fought the entire time. And she comes and sits down with a notebook, and she slides it across the table to me. And I look at it and I say, what's this? And she goes, I want you to write down what you want. And I said, what I want out of what? The marriage? And she goes, no, from this house, because you're leaving. And I just sat there for a second, and all of the cogs turned into place, and something clicked in my head. And I slowly stood up, and I slowly walked into the living room, and I started putting my boots on. This is in the middle of one of the worst blizzards that southern West Virginia had had in a long time. And I slowly put my boots on, and she realizes I'm actually leaving. I haven't said a word, but she realizes it. And she runs and she throws herself in front of the door, and she goes, I didn't mean it. You know, I was just, you know, whatever. I'm just upset. I'm just frustrated, blah, blah, blah. And this is after going through this continually for a year, all this abuse, all this mental and emotional and physical stuff, and everything that I had to give up. And I had to excommunicate from my family and my friends, and got whittled down to this little tiny human being that's stuck in this high control place. And I just looked at her and I said, get the F out of my way. And she moved to the side, and I walked out the door, and I didn't know where I was going. My mother wasn't talking to me. School was out for the Christmas break. There was nobody on campus. It was like half a mile, maybe a mile away of a walk. I didn't have anywhere to go. I didn't have anyone I could call. I didn't have a cell phone. I didn't have anything. And I just started walking in like 3 feet of snow. And I went to the only place that I knew, which was my university. And I walked around on the university campus for a bit. And I ended up breaking into one of the buildings just to have a place to sleep for the night. And I found a couch and I slept on the couch. And from there, I started rebuilding my life all over again. And the following semester comes up and I reconnect with a couple people that I knew. I get back into the dorms and all that. And I just try my best to restart my life.
Wow. That's wild, man.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a great, I know that was a hard time of your life, but certainly gained some wisdom there, gained some prudence about just who to look out for, what people want of you. And if you're listening to the podcast, man, be careful out there.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously, and I am a Christian, but I have the same view as you, Bob. Like, I don't have anything against anybody that you believe what you want to believe. I'm totally fine with that. I believe what I believe. But if you get into a group of people and they start dropping those hints and those signs that, you have to get rid of this and get rid of this and get rid of this, and the list seems to never end.
Yeah.
Beware.
Yeah, it's not only that, but it's a slow deconstruction of who you are as a person that a cult will implement. They will begin small by love bombing you, like really telling you how awesome you are and loving you and feeding you and welcoming you into their space and all of this. But it's when you start to have those little twinges in your brain of, oh wait, I haven't been able to talk to my mom or my dad or my brother or my sister or whoever in a while. And oh wait, they don't want me to go and hang out with my friends. And oh wait, I have to give up this thing that I really, really love that's never hurt me at all and never been a detriment in my life because I might go to hell by having it. It's those little things where they start ripping away at your own personality and your own being and who you are. That's not Christian at all.
No, it's not.
So, there's a big difference.
Yeah, it's just a big, hive mind kind of a thing going on there.
Yeah.
But anyway, all right. Two topics there, one quite heavy. So let's get into, it is Sunday afternoon smokes. So what I've got here, it's a relatively new cigar. This was launched by Connor McGregor just a few months ago.
Oh yeah.
It's called Notorious, right? And so I bought a couple of boxes. This is the Toro. It's a 4-year aged wrapper, Ecuadorian Habano 2000 Rosado Oscuro. That's a mouthful. So, and then it's a Mexican San Andreas binder and the Nicaraguan and Dominican Republic filler. And I expect this to be, quite bold, a bit spicy, but I'm not getting any spice on it really, and I'm a bit surprised. With some leather, maybe a little nutty, and I've got coffee with it. Unfortunately, you're facing inclement weather.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Well, I would expect a cigar with Connor McGregor's name on it to kind of punch you in the face.
You would think that. I mean, that's fair. That's a fair assessment. And I had a friend who smoked one of these the other day that I gave it to him as just hey, you're my friend, here you go. Mm-hmm. And he said he thought it was harsh. And maybe some time in the humidor and let it just kind of acclimate and mellow out would do it some good. But I don't really think this is harsh for me personally. But I'm only, an inch and a half. So we'll see where it comes out at the end of the podcast. But you are more of a pipe smoker than a cigar smoker.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah. So I grew up spending summers in Elkhart, Indiana at my grandparents' place. I go for a month, 2 months at a time. And I could always remember my grandfather smoking a pipe. He was a cigarette smoker, habitually, but he would also smoke a pipe. And I always remember like the feeling of those old early 1980s homes, the way they were set up and decorated and stuff. And he was a fashionable guy. He wore bow ties and whatever. He was
Did it have the wood paneling?
no, he did not have wood paneling, but I'm talking about like the classic every room was an archway entry kind of thing, and the sliding pocket doors and the big oval rugs that
Right.
every house had, and actual wood furniture with big giant armrests and stuff, and the couches or sofas that had that material and that pattern that wasn't uncomfortable, but it wasn't soft, like a thatching kind of thing. I can still see that house, like every inch of it. And I just remember him smoking a pipe, and the way that it smelled, the way that it was a slow, relaxing process. And he would sit there and just stare off into space. And I asked him one day, I said, "What are you looking at?" And he goes, "I'm not looking at anything." And I thought, wow. He goes, "No, I'm just relaxing." And I said, "Well, if that's what grandpa's doing to relax, that's what I want to do to relax." So years go by. Both of my parents were cigarette smokers. I never really knew anybody who smoked cigars or pipes or anything like that otherwise, like my grandfather did. And after I got out of college, I had a roommate, and his grandfather passed away. So his grandmother says, or his mom says, "You guys need to go into the apartment. We're going to clear it out. I want to let you guys go in first, and you can have whatever you want." I said, "Okay, and I'll go with you, I'll help you out." And so we go over to the condo, and we're looking around, and he's going through some things, and I'm there trying to be moral support. And I look over, and I see this 6-pipe caddy with the little flip-up humidor and the spaces for 6 pipes and all of that. And I looked at it, and I thought, oh. And I said, "Hey, man, can I have that?" And he goes, "Yeah, whatever." So I got my first 6 pipes from a dead person. And I didn't really know much about it at that point. And I'm not even sure there was, YouTube was in its infancy. It's nothing like it is now. So I kind of like learned by trial and error. I got a magazine that showed you, how to clean them and all of that kind of thing. And I started smoking pipe. And then I got away from it for a while. After I got into my second marriage, I got away from it. But then after my second divorce, I just almost immediately acquired a pipe and all of the necessities for it. And now that YouTube's in full effect and there's 4,000 tutorials for everything, I learned how to recondition an estate pipe. I learned what makes a good pipe here versus here. I learned the differences between, I learned everything about them, like how you practically know your business in cigars. I learned everything I could about pipe smoking and appreciating it and all of that. And I really got into it, started purchasing pipes and really enjoying the aspect of it.
Yeah. Well, I'm a little bit confused because you shared with me before the show that I maybe I misunderstood, but I just felt like you thought you really didn't know a whole lot about pipes, or maybe it's the pipe tobacco, but it sounds like you know a lot. So where am I confused?
So really for me, I still, even though I've been doing it for a couple of years now on a regular basis, I still feel like a novice. Like I'm discovering new tobaccos through friends, through watching YouTube videos, through just the art of discovery. Like when I got my first estate pipe, and the guy at the counter says, "Make sure you clean this right." So I went home, I found a tutorial, I went through the process. And
What is
now,
that process?
so when you get an estate pipe, and pipes in general, one of the first things that a person will ask you when they find out that you're a pipe smoker, because it is a more it's an activity of antiquity, right? Like
Yes.
cigar smoking is widely known and accepted, but when a person who's not 90 years old is seen smoking a pipe, people kind of like double
Right.
take. So the first thing that inevitably I get asked in this day and age is, can you smoke green out of that? And I say, no, that's not something you do out of a pipe like this. Because actually, much like you have different flavors and different notes and what of cigars, like you have the light, the medium, the brown, the dark, all that. With pipe smoking, you have a pipe for each tobacco. So say if I was smoking a cherry tobacco consistently out of one pipe, I would not then put a different kind of tobacco in that pipe because it taints it and makes it sour. So I would have a second pipe if I wanted to smoke, some kind of other darker,
Yeah, you
richer
want to
tobacco.
smoke an English blend.
Right.
And then another pipe for your Orientals.
Right. So you'd have a different pipe for each blend of tobacco that you smoke because you don't want to contaminate the pipe itself. You can make a pipe go sour that way. So when you get an estate pipe, you don't know its history, really. An estate pipe meaning someone passes away, their estate gets cleaned out, the pipe comes into the shop, and it's sold secondhand. So you take it home, and what I usually do is I have a little Dremel with the softest wire brush that you can get, and I just go along the edges until I can barely see the veneer on the inside, the wood on the inside. I go along the edges, clean out all the muck because pipes build up over time. So I get that process done, and then you get some really chunky kosher salt, 100% kosher salt. You get some alcohol and some pipe cleaners, a couple of more bristly ones, a couple of softer ones.
What kind of alcohol are you using?
So isopropyl alcohol.
Okay.
Yep.
I mean, we're not pouring Jim Beam in it.
No. Well, yeah, I mean, you could probably use vodka or something, but it would probably leave a taste behind. So isopropyl alcohol, kosher salt, a lot of pipe cleaners, that kind of thing. And basically I Dremel out the inside of the bowl to clean it all down to as close to, because you don't want to take it all the way to the wood. So I'd get it down as far as I can. I do the inside of the stem. I take the thing apart, and then the process from there basically is you pack the bowl with kosher salt to the top. You pour in the isopropyl alcohol to let it soak in. The salt you got to get the big chunky kind. The salt will dissolve a little bit, and then you pour it in again, and then you repack it with salt again. You take a big long pipe cleaner and soak it in the alcohol and the salt mixture in a different bowl, and then jam it down in the stem. And you leave that set for anywhere from 24 to 48 hours. When that's all done, you look at what's left, you take it out, and then you clean out the inside. I usually take a little torch, like a little firing torch, like what you would use with a cigar, torch the inside of it to singe everything out of it, not to burn it or anything.
Right.
Because there's a Japanese technique called shoshugiban, which is where you treat the wood by burning it to harden it up. So I torch the inside of it to singe everything, singe all the remnants out, that kind of thing. And that gets a lot of any kind of leftover alcohol or any kind of leftover salt or anything. Just torch that out, run through it again with pipe cleaners and alcohol again, let it set for another day, and then it's ready to smoke.
All right, man. So you're much more educated than I expected based on the notes that you shared with me beforehand when it comes to pipe smoking.
As far as the tobacco itself, that's where the learning process comes into play. Yeah. Because I always knew of like the stuff you could get from the supermarket. Yeah. But when I really started exploring it, there's a gigantic world out there that I know nothing about.
Man. It's a deep well. And it's the same with, cigars, and of course tobacco in general, because you have tobacco, and a lot of these overlap, of course, but tobacco grown for cigars, tobacco grown for pipes, tobacco used for cigarettes, tobacco used for chewing.
Chewing, yeah.
You know what I mean? And I was a big fan of chewing tobacco. That started a long time ago. I don't do it anymore. I mean, I'd like to, but my wife would not be very. She would probably, I don't know. She would hate me. I like really, really loathe.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a deep well, and it's not just about which tobacco, but like how do they cure it? You know, is it sun cured? Is it fire cured? Is it just air cured? You know, there's a whole lot going on there. So when it comes to smoking your pipe, like, do you find you lean towards aromatics or English or Orientals, or where do you like to be?
I I kind of like to be in a more aromatic place. Like there's one brand that I really like, and it's called Plum Pudding. It's an English Balkan blend.
Seattle Pipe Club.
Seattle Pipe Club, yeah. Plum Pudding is probably one of my absolute favorites. It comes in a cake, and you cut the slivers off yourself and all that, which I really enjoy. Because for me, it's more about the
Methodology.
the methodology, the process.
Yeah.
It's not so much, oh, I just want to smoke, or I just, because when I'm doing yard work, I'll put in a cheap cherry blend from the supermarket when I'm doing yard work, because I'm not sitting to relax. I'm not.
Quick question. So do you have, for like doing yard work, and you're just going to throw in this like trash blend of whatever it is, so do you just have like a rough corn cob for the for the yard work, and then you have a better pipe for your like?
No, because for me, it's also still about the aesthetic. And corn cob reminds me too much of my childhood. so yeah, no, I've got like ones with the big bells and all of that. But really, when it comes to smoking a pipe, it's not, because you don't really, just like with a cigar, you're not really smoking it. You're not inhaling. People have their different reasons, but for me, it's about the slowing down and the relaxing and tuning everything else out and getting back in touch with myself. Because you have to tend to it. You might have to relight once or twice. You might have to check and see what's going on. You have to be aware of your control, because if you're hitting it too hard, the bowl gets real hot in your hand, that kind of thing.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
And so it's a process of like me deciding, okay, I've had this week, or I've had this day, or these things are happening. I'm going to sit, and I'm going to go through my process, and I'm going to get back in touch with myself.
Yeah.
And so something like a plum pudding, where you actually have to cut it off yourself, you have to be cognizant of how much you're doing and how you're doing it. That's that process. If it's something where I'm outside and I feel like I need to be doing two things at once, which is usual, that's when I pack the cheap stuff in, and I'm just like, light it up, fire up the lawnmower, here we go. So yeah, the Balkan blends especially are my favorite, because they're a deeper, richer, more flavorful smoke. I love if I could find a good artisan cherry blend, if I can find a good like whiskey kind of blend, that kind of thing. That's what I really enjoy.
Yeah, and I don't know how many of the listeners to my podcast, I would imagine most of them are cigar smokers, because, it's promoted. Obviously, it's an offshoot of my cigar business. And then, so I don't know how many of the guys that listen to the podcast, or ladies, are pipe smokers, but just a couple of things. Like Bob was saying, he talked about plum pudding, which comes in a cake, and it's basically a brick of tobacco. Like you said, you've got to cut it yourself, but there's also what's called ribbon cut, and so the tobacco is already cut for you very thin into thin ribbons, and it's much easier to. I mean, you just take it out and you pack it in the bowl, and then they have what's the other ones, like the little coins?
So
I forget what that's called.
I can't remember the name of it, but you what I've experienced with that is if you don't have a specific kind of pipe, meaning one with a bigger bowl or a more kind of robust pipe,
Yeah.
those have been difficult for me. So I tried those once, and then kind of never went back to it.
I thought you just unrolled them. I thought you just kind of took the coins and kind of like, did a little Mr. Miyagi thing right here in between your hands. And
Now
just
you know more than I do.
Yeah, I thought you're supposed to take that and just kind of rub it out like this, and it turns almost into ribbons.
Maybe I'll try it again then.
Yeah, that was my understanding of it, but what do I know?
Yeah,
just give it a shot. So and you do the same thing with the cake though, right? Like you cut it off and then do you rub it out?
So usually what I do with a cake, is because it, like you said, it's like a brick. It's kind of hard. You need a razor or a knife or something to cut the pieces off. And then once you cut the pieces off, what I like to do, my preference, is I'll leave them.
Bite it off?
No, I'll leave them the consistency of like chopped onions. You know how when you dice an onion up, you get those little squares. I leave my consistency like that, and then I'll pack it down. A lot of people will take and rub it between their fingers to break it up, and then they pack it down. Because the cake, all it is it's just a cake version of what you would normally be used to in a regular pouch. But it's the process of how they create it, how they fuse it and all that. But no, for me personally, my personal preference is I like to leave just little itty bitty, diced sized chunks, and then I'll pack it real tight, and the air gets through all the chunk pieces.
Yeah, and so there is. I mean, and I'm happy to geek out on pipes and pipe tobaccos and all that stuff. There are various methods for packing a pipe, and whenever I first got started with tobacco, it was chewing and then it went to pipe. And then back in 2018, when I got back into tobacco, because I became a Christian in December of 1999, and I was smoking a pipe and chewing at that time, but then it was that like tobacco's bad, alcohol's bad.
Right.
I mean, it wasn't a cult, but there.
Well, you're in the South.
I am in the South, right? And then,
Southern Christians will get that joke.
Yeah. I did make my long story short. I won't belabor it because my listeners have heard it many times, but just went back to the tobacco in 2018 and went back to a pipe. That's where it started, and now I'm on to cigars. I rarely smoke a pipe anymore, but I remember for a novice pipe smoker, learning to properly pack a bowl takes practice.
I still have problems with it, really. It's like I do it almost the same way every time, and every time I get different results. It's the craziest thing, because I watched so many tutorials and so many people saying, well, I do it this way and I do it this way and I do it this way. And it's a process, because it will either keep going out on you and you have to relight 72 times, or you get that one day where you do your initial light, you let it burn down, you tamp it down, you light it again, and then it stays lit, and you're just sitting there just enjoying it.
It's hard.
It is. It's
like for
difficult.
People that don't smoke pipes, like you, number one, you need to understand pipe smoking is an art form in itself. Smoking a cigar is not. Like, if you do your cigar right, which is not hard to light, all you have to do is keep smoking it. The only reason it's going to go out is if either A, you have to walk away to handle something, or you're, hanging out with guys and you're talking too much and not smoking. But a pipe is, man, it's a craft.
Yeah.
Like from packing the bowl to keeping it lit. And of course, you'll know this because you're a pipe smoker. Like, I almost consider, for me, like a successful pipe smoke is if I don't have any dawdle at the bottom of the bowl. Like if I have smoked it all.
Yeah. And that even if you get that perfect light, it's hard to achieve that as well, because you don't want to leave anything, but you also don't want to have what we call pipe bite.
Right.
Because later when you're brushing your teeth and that pipe bite is there, it's like your mouth just flames up.
Yeah.
What I mean by pipe bite, for those listening that don't know, is you can get too close to the bottom and actually inhale too deeply. And it doesn't, to say it burns your mouth is not correct, because your mouth is not burnt, but it leaves a feeling in your mouth that you end up tasting later, that you end up suffering from later, especially with, peppermint toothpaste. But
yeah, that'll do it.
But yeah, man, it's like if you pack it too tight, air doesn't get through. If you pack it too light, it doesn't burn. It's this process of getting it just right in the right spot. And for me, a successful smoke is not having to relight more than 3 times.
Dude, that's a champ move right there. If you can smoke a pipe and only have to light it 3 times.
Yeah.
Now, does that count your initial light?
No, the char light is not counted in that, because you have to light it once to char the top and all that. For people who don't know, you have to light it once to char it down. Then because what happens is all that heat and everything raises the tobacco up.
Mm-hmm. That's an interesting phenomenon.
Yeah,
the tobacco like grows.
It grows.
It's weird.
Then you can let it burn out. I let it get down to just barely being lit, and then I will tamp it and light it again real quick. But yeah, because what happens is all the oils and the gases and everything react to the heat and the fire. Mm-hmm. So the tobacco rises up a little bit in the bowl, and then you have to tamp it back down. And after that initial char light, it creates kind of like I don't know what you would call it, but it keeps it from doing that again.
It's like a crust.
Yeah, like a crust
on the top.
But then when you get that, like a campfire, when you set a piece of wood on fire, it'll slowly burn down. It's the same way, but if you don't tend to it and if you don't take care of it, it'll go out.
Yeah, so you do the char light and the tobacco grows, and I'm like you, it'll go through that growth, and then I'll tamp it just a little bit and continue smoking. But you kind of tamp as you go.
Yeah.
You can correct my ignorance. I was just kind of under the impression that basically, I don't even know how to explain this, but I just felt like the tamping, because everything gets super loose on top when it turns to ash.
Right.
And we want to keep that little ember in there in good contact with the fresh tobacco underneath, and that the tamp helps to accomplish that. I don't know if that's right or not.
Well, yeah. One thing that I do, and I don't know if it's right, if purists would hate me for it, but one thing that I do is, once it's burned down about a quarter of the way and I can see the ash in the top, I'll take one good big inhale. I'll tap my pipe on the table to loosen that stuff up. Just gently tap it to loosen that ash up. And then I dump the ash out and I keep going. Because I take that big inhale, the tobacco underneath flames up, or not flames up, but you know what I mean. It catches the spark, and it'll stay lit where I can dump the ash out and still have my tobacco lit up. And then I'll usually relight then, just to get the whole top going. So it's kind of like repeating the process halfway through that you started with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I hear you on that. I have another question, then we can move on to whatever else. But what is your method? I mean, I know you talked about you take your cake and you cut it up into dice, but what's your method for packing?
So normally what I'll do, let's say I'm working with just a regular loose ribbon tobacco.
Yeah.
So a lot of people have different methods. They may do the pinch method where they pinch out a bit and put it in the bowl. They may do the method where they jam the bowl down in the pouch and shake it all around and let things fall in, that kind of thing. That's typically my method. I'll put it in the pouch. I'll let the stuff fall into the bowl as it may. But then I take my thumb, I give it a light press, I fill it up again, I give it a light press until it's at a point of overflowing.
Mm-hmm.
Then, because I have big hands, I got big thumbs, I'll take my thumb and I'll push down on the top to where my thumb is over the hole of the bowl. And I just twist the pipe around like a corkscrew.
Right.
And that tobacco will start twisting up together.
Right.
That way it kind of binds to itself. It's not in there just hanging out all loose. It kind of twists like fashioning a rope.
Yeah.
Twists up together. And then I give it a small little tamp, and then I do my char light, and then I go from there.
Okay. Yeah. So normally I would take my my bag of tobacco, and I would do the thing where I stick it in there and kind of scoop it full.
Yeah.
And then I'll push down, I'll pack it, and then I'll probably do that at least twice, and then top it off and just use the pad of my thumb.
Yep.
Into that, and then I'll just spin my thumb around the top.
Yeah, so we do the same thing.
More or less. And then you just kind of go from there and hope for the best.
That's all you can do, right?
Yeah. How many pipes do you have?
Right now I've got 2, because where I'm at now, it's kind of difficult to get the tobacco that I want. So I can only get it every once in a while when I'm traveling. So I've got 2 different pipes. One's my cheap stuff doing yard work, running the bandsaw kind of pipe. And then the other one's for sitting around in the shade and having a nice drink pipe.
Yeah. And how often do you smoke?
Well, I just recently got diagnosed with late adult onset asthma. No reason, just out of nowhere. It just happened. But I'm on a good treatment plan, so it doesn't bother me. But I usually, I've been playing hockey for 25 years recreationally. And so if I'm at game day, after the game, I'll go sit outside and I'll smoke after a game to let all that adrenaline and everything go down. Typically I smoke at least once a week. Maybe every 2 weeks, depends on how fast the grass grows.
Yeah.
But to really sit down and relax with it and baby it and like do nothing else but be intentional about it, that's maybe once a month.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Last question. You told me when it comes to cigars that if you're going to smoke one, it's typically just kind of the cheap stuff when you have them. Several months ago, I sent you a few cigars.
Yeah.
How did those compare to what you typically smoke?
Well, back in the day, being in a punk rock band, we'd go to the punk rock club and everybody smoked cigarettes and this and that. And I just wanted to kind of be different and stand out. So I'd go to the local liquor store. I'd buy whatever was cheap, like a Phillies Blunt or whatever. Just to have the look of it. And I'd be playing drums with a cigar in my mouth, and that kind of thing. Then a friend of mine turned me on to cigarellos, like little tiny ones, because he liked to smoke them when he's riding his motorcycle. And he turned me on to that. And then every once in a while, because we worked in the same place together for a bit, every once in a while, he would get really nice ones. He'd get nice big cigars, and I never knew what I was looking at. But he'd go, "Hey, you want one of these?" I go, "Yeah." And we'd sit and we'd smoke together as a social thing. And then I moved down the street from a smoke shop. And I thought, well, I'm going to go in there, investigate, and see what kind of pipe tobacco they have. But the guy who owned the place was like 80 years old. He had always owned it. It was his family business for an ice age. And I go in, his name was Mr. Bell. And I go, "Hi, Mr. Bell, how are you?" And we got to know each other because I'm that type of person where I got to know your name and I got to be friends with you and all that, even regardless of whether I'm going to see you for 10 seconds or not. And so we got on a first name basis, and I'd go in and he had these big jars of loose blended pipe tobacco. Mm-hmm. And so he would make recommendations, and he would pack me up a bag of his own blends that he had made. But he had this giant humidor. He had all these cigars, and I started buying them as gifts for my friend who I had been smoking with. I say, Mr. Bell, can you recommend me a cigar for, just sitting around relaxing? Or can you recommend a cigar for working out in the yard? And he'd always make a recommendation. I'd look at it for a second, put it in the bag, and I'd give it to my friend as a gift. It actually wasn't until I met you and started watching your social media and everything that you're doing online that I really kind of became cognizant of, oh yeah, this is something that I can appreciate and slow down and like really have a look at. So when when you got back from Vegas and you said you were up to your eyeballs in cigars or whatever, and I said send me some, I was so excited about it because I'm like, he's gonna send me things that he really knows, that like, and I felt in a way that I was back in Mr. Bell's tobacco shop, because I'm like, this is a person that knows what he's talking about. He's not going to send me junk. And
Right.
when you sent me the package and I opened it up and I looked at it, I was like, wow. And then you started doing your informational videos, about the different kinds of cigars and how to light them. And it really tuned me into this world where like I could really get into appreciating this. I could really get into that. And out of what you sent me, I don't remember the name of it, but the dark one,
Mm-hmm.
I came out one day and instead of smoking my pipe, I brought it with me. And I lit it up and I was burning some brush and doing some trimming on the trees and stuff and burning brush. And I soon realized, I'm like, I got to stop what I'm doing and sit down. And I sat down with it, and it was just such an experience of really sitting and enjoying it, as opposed to just having it for the look or, whatever, to try and be impressive. It's like
Yeah.
sitting in the backyard with the sun coming down, and just, it was just really, really nice. So yeah, out of everything you sent me, the dark one was the best.
Yeah, I don't remember. I remember. I want to say I sent you a Ferriotego, Connecticut. But that's not the dark one. That's a light, mild, creamy. It's a great smoke. I don't remember the other ones though. But man, I didn't know that I've helped you along in that way, and I'm glad to hear it.
Yeah. So where I'm at now, it's difficult to find stuff. There's a
Yeah.
lot of vape shops and, e-cig and stuff, but it's hard to find a really good smoke
Mm-hmm.
shop or cigar store. So usually when I'm traveling, I look for those things and
Yeah.
try and find something.
If you're listening, I don't generally recommend that you buy cigars from vape shops.
No.
What I find most of the time is that vape shops exist for vaping, but they have just a kind of cigar element to them because they're trying to catch a little extra business, but they don't really know a lot about cigars. They don't know how to take care of them. And that's my take on it by and large.
Yeah. Yeah.
So find your,
You got to find yourself a Chris from Mobile Cigar Box, or you
yeah.
got to find yourself a Mr. Bell, or
Yeah, find your local tobacconist
yeah.
and get from there. Or heck, man, reach out to me, shoot me a DM on Instagram, Mobile Cigar Box, and I can get you in the right direction, or I can get you some smokes, one or the other. So speaking of the cigar box, I want you as the listener to experience the ultimate in cigar luxury brought directly to your event. The Cigar Box offers a curated selection of premium cigars, expert recommendations, and a sophisticated mobile cigar bar experience on wheels. Perfect for weddings, corporate events, and private parties. Visit mobileCigarBox.com and fill out the booking inquiry. Also, for people that listen to Sunday Afternoon Smokes, if you're looking for custom apparel for your business or maybe just for fun, James Caps of Moultrie Leather Goods is your go-to guy for hats, hoodies, tees, beanies, and much more. Visit Moultrie Leather Goods on Facebook. That's MOULTRIE. Or send an email to moultrieleathergoods@gmail.com. And when you mention Sunday Afternoon Smokes, you will get a discount on your order. All right, Bob, back to you, man. So you mentioned earlier that you, I guess you're the owner of the black box clandestine JXB radio,
Yeah.
JXB Media. So just let us know like exactly what JXB is. You said some of it already, but yeah, let us know what it is and what you do.
Yeah. So back in the day, I always wanted to be on the radio. I always wanted to be on television. I wanted to be involved in media. And every Christmas and birthday, in addition to drums, I wanted a camcorder. I wanted to make my own movies and my own shows. I used to sit around with a cassette player listening to the radio, and I would hit record when a good song would come on, and then I would record my own DJ parts, and I'd make my own radio shows on cassette.
Nice.
When I got to college, the first thing I did was turn on the television and look for the student TV station. And I found it, and I found a show that seemed to be like the biggest and the best show. It was the one that looked like it had the most effort put into it, had the best cast, all of this kind of thing. So I found that guy and I said, hey, I'm a freshman on campus. I want to be part of your show. I'm interested in doing this, that, and the other. And he basically gave me the cold shoulder and told me to piss off. I'm like, okay, well, that's fine. I'll just end up being better than you. I'll make my own thing. And so I did, and he pissed off. And I met this guy named Josh Exline. And after getting out of the cult, after getting divorced from that person and getting out of the cult, I moved back into the dorms. I didn't have any friends. I didn't have anywhere to go. And I saw Exline on campus the first day that we were able to come back, because we had been in the midst of this giant blizzard. The streets, everything were shut down. There was nobody on campus for weeks but me. And I was coming and going back and forth to work and sleeping on this couch. And first day on campus, back for the next semester, I see him and he sees me and he goes, oh, hey, rah, rah, rah. And because him and his friends like to make fun of me for being fundamentalist at that time, for being in the cult. And I said, hey, man, I'm out of that all right now. That all ended and blah, blah, blah. And I'm in a desperate situation. I need a place to stay, because I knew that he lived by himself on campus. And we talked for a bit. We reconciled. And I moved in with him. And he was really interested in radio, and I was really interested in television. So we kind of combined our efforts, and we started producing our own television programs, our own radio shows. I became the director of student media, so I controlled the TV studio and the radio studio. And we put together a little gang of sorts and basically ran things. I mean, we were a big presence on campus. Everybody knew who we were. We were very guerrilla style with what we did. And after we both left college, I went on to work for National Public Radio, and I went on to work for public television, and I was working for Major League Baseball. I was in all these different roles in media.
I want to talk about that because I'm a baseball guy. So we'll get there.
We'll get there.
We'll put it in the back pocket for now.
He went into corporate rock radio, like, 107 The Edge, that
Right.
kind of stuff. And he did corporate rock radio for a while, and he was working in a record store and this and that. So even though we were apart, we still had all these plans of the things that we wanted to do. We just had to wait for technology to catch up to us. And so over the years, I would get these groups together like I had in college, and we would produce programs, movies, radio programs, audio programs, whether it be locally or regionally or whatever. I was always involved in something that created media in some form. And so a couple of years ago, I texted him one day and I said, so I have an idea. And anytime that I text him, so I have an idea, he loses his mind because he knows that something huge is coming. I reserve that phrase specifically for something big. And I said, so I have an idea. And we'd always really been into pro wrestling, like gigantic pro wrestling fans all of our lives. And I produced a pro wrestling program in college. It was an award-winning program. But I said, this day and age with technology the way it is, we can do a pro wrestling podcast / television show. and put it on YouTube and put it on Spotify and all of this, because we had originally planned on doing a radio program. Back in the day, Spotify had this program called Music and Talk, where you basically constructed your own radio show, and you could get away with playing music without having to have copyright infringement on your podcast. And right when we were getting ready to launch that, Spotify ends the program because they get bought out. So we're like, well, what are we going to do? And we say, well, let's do this video podcast, and we can come up with characters and we can get other people involved. And we started doing this pro wrestling podcast. We did 6 episodes of that. And it was a lot of work and very minimal return. And that ended. I was like, you know what? We're not having fun anymore. And our motto has always been, when we're no longer having fun, we're no longer going to do it. So a while goes by after that, and I'm sitting there one day and I text him. So I have an idea. And I said, you remember back in the day when we had this idea to do the Glorious Beard? And he's like, oh, yeah. And that stemmed out of, at the time, I was working in a studio where I was recording all of these bands that would come in to do live performances for the radio, like Grammy award-winning bands. And we thought, well, let's do this podcast called The Glorious Beard, and every musician that comes in that has a beard, we'll interview them for the podcast. I think we might have did 2 episodes back then, and it was just me and him. So I'm sitting there one day and I'm thinking, we could turn this into something, but it has to be of substance. It has to be something that makes a difference in people's lives. And I texted him. I said, so I have an idea. And he goes, oh, no, here it comes. And I said, you remember the Glorious Beard? And he goes, yeah. And I said, let's do that. And he goes, well, we don't have access to the musicians anymore. And I said, no, this is the way it's going to be. And I laid out the entire plan for him. I said, we're going to get people involved. We're going to get people who need help in their careers, whether it be writers, on-screen performers, video production people, whatever it might be. Because we have a good mixture of interns, volunteers, and people making career pivot. I said, we're going to get all these people together. We're going to use all of our vast amount of experience and knowledge, and we're going to hand it down to all of these people and improve their lives and help them to be better. And we're going to do it as a storytelling podcast. The beard is the main focus. The person behind the beard is the story. Because I'm a believer that even if you think you're the most boring person in the world, you have a story to tell.
Absolutely.
So that's what I do. And, so I started getting interns, I started getting volunteers, I started finding people online who were looking to accelerate their careers or get practice or whatever. Because one of the main things is you don't ever have an open forum to practice appropriately, certainly not under the tutelage or supervision of someone who's been there and done that. Like, I've been behind the camera, I've been in front of the camera, I've been on the side of it, I've been here, I've been there, I've directed, I've held cables, I've done live sports, I've done everything, man. And I'm like, I'm sitting on all of this education and information and not doing anything with it. I want to start spreading that out. So we got all these people together, and now I think, what is it? Next week, episode 15 comes out. And we're doing bi-weekly episodes, and we're killing it on social media.
Yeah.
We're getting ready to release a television show.
Oh, wow. Sweet.
We're now sponsoring 2 radio programs through our efforts. Terrestrial radio, like on a real radio station, not streaming. And looking to syndicate that. We're always in this process of forward motion with creating, with the bigger mission in mind of being a service to the people who are part of our crew. Mm-hmm. I'll bring in an intern and I'll say, you want to be a writer? Cool. We will help you write. We have this person over here who has a master's in pop culture. We have this person over here who worked at Animal Planet. We have this person here who did copy for radio. Yeah. And all of our perspectives can come together, because I tell people, I say, I don't give a rip what's on your resume. It does not matter to me. The fact that you applied to be part of it tells me that you think you can do it.
Yeah.
After that, it's about the connection that we make with each other.
Yeah.
Because that's how we really grow.
Mm-hmm.
And I can learn as much from a college freshman as they can learn from me.
Yeah.
So, that's what we're doing right now. We're doing all of those things. And we used to run under the banner of Top Secret Television Productions, because everything that we did was at like 3 a.m. when nobody was around.
Yeah.
So we were like kind of secretive about what we were doing, and we'd break into buildings on campus to shoot our skits and all that. And we always we were very reserved about what we did. We didn't want to let anybody know. And eventually that became JXB Media, because I'm looking back on these decades of creations and these decades of things that we've done together, and everywhere that we've been in media, me and Josh Exline. And I'm looking at it one day and I'm thinking J and B, and the X in the middle comes from the hardcore music scene. So you'd put an X in the middle with the two main letters, and then at the top would be established, and at the bottom in the middle would be, the year. So it's not really JXB
I
Media,
see.
it's JB Media. But when I made the logo and I looked at it, I said, that sounds perfect. JXB Media.
Sure. Well, before we get further into that, I just want you to know that you don't know anything about the Macho Man Randy Savage and where I'm coming from, because it's mind-boggling to you. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorite. That's one of my favorite clips of Macho Man. No pukesters to the left, no pukesters helping me to the right.
Well, I watched WWF back in the day,
Oh,
and
yeah.
he's real famous for that cream of the crop promo that he did.
Yeah, that's so good.
I remember watching that the first time that it aired and just thinking like, Macho Man is doing witchcraft, because he was just making that creamer like
yeah. It's just a little sleight of hand thing he's going on there. Yeah. No, that's great. Well, that's how you found me. I just had this profile on Backstage, and then I saw this thing called the Glorious Beard, and I'm like, hello, that's right up my alley.
Yeah.
With the beard that I have, and it's something about a podcast. And I don't know exactly what all you were planning, but I'm like, dude, I'm definitely reaching out for that. And then we got together and you told me like what y'all were after, and I'm like, yeah, I'm down. Because I'm working on just getting into some voiceover, maybe brand modeling, acting, but this certainly helps me.
Yeah.
And like you said, just, I don't know, people, if you have a dream, chase it, go for it. And hopefully things work out, and you can run into somebody that's willing to give you an opportunity no matter what's on your resume, because let's face it, at some point everybody has 0 on their resume.
Yeah.
You have to just go for it and see. It's kind of like the whole throwing everything against the wall and seeing what sticks.
And I think that really that's one of the things for me is like my best opportunities in life have always come from saying yes when the answer was actually no. Like really wanting something and pursuing it and being asked, well, can you actually do this? Or do you know what this is about? And just going, yes. When I didn't, that's how I got into working at NPR. That's how I got into working for the Cincinnati Reds in Major League Baseball. That's how I got into a lot of situations that I was in. But I also realized that like the opportunities that I've been given came as a result of someone looking at me and going, yeah, all right. I have a lot of people come to me that want to be part of what we're creating, and they've got these big, long, impressive resumes, and they tell me all this stuff they can do and all that. And I'm like, great, but, and this is how I used to hire interns in the past. When I was at NPR, I got promoted to a position where I was producing a daily syndicated program that went out to all these stations all over the United States. And my supervisor comes to me and she goes, you have to hire interns. She drops a big stack of papers on my desk. And I said, I don't need an intern. I'm doing fine. I learned how to do it myself. She goes, no, you need interns. The new semester is starting. You have to hire interns. I said, okay, cool. And she walks away and I grab the first paper off the top. And I look at the top of it and I find the email address. I type the email into my email program, into Outlook on my computer. I throw the resume in the garbage. And I write the email and say, hey, I got your resume. It looks great. Can you come into the station and talk to me? Let's sit down and have a conversation. So they would come in, we'd sit on the couch together, and I go, you sent in your resume. Great. You're in a communications, media, whatever you want to call it, kind of program as your study. It's obvious that you can do what I'm going to need you to do here. I could teach a chimpanzee to do what you're going to do. That only leaves one question for me as to whether or not you can be an intern here. And they go, okay. And I'd say, are you cool? And they would get this biggest deer in headlights look like every time. And internally, I'm just laughing, like hardcore laughing. And I go, because I can teach you whatever it is that you need to know. You can do this job through me teaching you what you need to know. But if we're going to sit next to each other all day long, you got to have a passion for this business. You got to be able to hold a conversation. You got to be into good music. You got to know when to leave me alone because I'm making deadline. All of these things. So I'll ask you again, are you cool? And they'd be like, oh, yeah, I'm cool. Because they really want the internship.
Yeah.
And I go, okay, what's in your playlist right now? Chris, I hired so many great interns that way. I can't tell you, because it's about the human connection. I've had a lot of people who come with these big, impressive resumes and all this stuff and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, great. Okay, well, we'll let you know. And then I find that person who doesn't exactly know how to do what we're doing, doesn't exactly know how to use the programs we use, has kind of fiddled around with it. Maybe they had a YouTube channel when they were 14, whatever. And I say, great, come on in. Let's get you going. And at the same time, I'm like, just because you're coming in as a video editor doesn't mean you can't write. You might have a great idea for a script. You might have a great idea for a guest. You might have a great idea for this or that. You may want to learn how to do this thing over here. That's fine. Let me know. I will teach you.
Yeah.
Because in university, they only get to do student projects and what they're assigned. They don't get to do the fun stuff. I recently had an intern who is on her way out. She's completed her internship. She has to move on to bigger and better things. And she looks at me and she goes, this was my favorite internship I ever had. And I said, oh, why? And she goes, because I got to do exactly what I wanted, but I did it with great supervision.
Yeah.
I said, mission accomplished.
Sure.
If the podcast never airs, I don't care. As much as I've improved something in your life, that's where my real mission is fulfilled.
Yeah. I have two commercials I've always wanted to make. One is, it would probably be in a trade show somewhere. I don't know, but it's for Smith & Wesson, the gun manufacturer. And so the scene is, right, it's like Old West town. This is like the Wild West. And there's people bustling around and cows down the street, whatever. But there's the sheriff's office, and the sheriff's out on the porch leaning up against the wall, taking it all in. And the camera, is panning in all the way to the Smith & Wesson logo on his pistol. And this is where that's all you see. And then it pans back out, and the scene now is like some beat cop or whatever on the streets of New York City. And it's just at the very end, it's like Smith & Wesson keeping the peace since, 1825 or whatever. I always just thought that would be fun.
And if any of you are listening, Chris has already sent that to the patent office. Don't steal it.
Yeah, don't steal it. Don't steal my stuff. Looking at you, Smith & Wesson. But yeah, I like everything you just said, because if we're talking about skills, you can teach somebody how to do whatever.
Right.
But you cannot teach somebody how to be cool.
You
cannot teach somebody attitude. You cannot teach somebody just, I don't know, and some of that is intuitive, like just being able to read the room, know what it is. Yeah, I don't know. But so, I'm doing some stuff for the Glorious Beard on the social media side. I'm reading some scripts, doing some voiceover work for you guys. And literally the world is full of beards. And so it seems like there's almost an infinite number of people just to do these quick little social media bites to help in the social media presence. But how is TGB choosing out who you want for the podcast episodes?
Well, So one of the early missions that we came up with is that we wanted the Glorious Beard to be for everyone. You know, there are certain podcasts out there that are only for these people over here or these people over here or that kind of thing. And this especially rings true on our social media, is we don't want to exclude any of our audience.
Yeah, I mean, we have ladies doing Glorious Beard stuff.
Right. If you look at our social media, you'll notice that we have roughly 4 to 6 different on-screen presenters, myself included. That's from all age groups, all genders, and the topics and the subjects that we choose are really all over the place. It could be about a biker one day, it could be about a movie star the next, it could be about a bearded lady the next day, because we want it to be able to be enjoyed by anyone, anywhere, at any time. You can listen to it with your grandmother in the car. You can listen to it with a group of people at the laundromat, wherever you are. And when it comes to our guests, we kind of tend to choose people that we feel in some ways deserve some recognition. We feature a lot of veterans on the podcast. We feature people who we feel have a great story. One of our most recent episodes, we had Chuck Reagan from Hot Water Music. We had, before that, we had a barber who does mindfulness. He's like a Buddhist guru barber who does mindfulness sessions in the barber chair. So you can come in for an hour and sit down and talk and have this experience. People who are changing people's lives, who are doing good. We had the beard and mustache world champion on. We've had all walks of people. And my big philosophy on it is like I said before, I think everyone has a story. And I want to learn that story. I want to figure it out. And so we really don't shut out anybody at all. Now, if you're a jerk or whatever, yeah, of course.
If you're not cool.
If you're not cool, you don't make it on. But yeah, coming up, I think we're in talks. Don't put this in concrete. But you remember Al Borland from Home Improvement?
Oh, yeah.
We've got him coming up.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, Richard Karn.
Yeah.
We've been in talks with Richard Karn to have him on the show. And we just we've got bearded villains on the show. We've got musicians, we've got veterans, we've got all kinds of people, beard care product people, we've got all kinds of people on the show. I never shut the door on adventure, Chris. That's one of my main mottos. I never shut the door on adventure.
Yeah. Let me take just a second here and make an adjustment, man. I'm recording outside because, like you can't smoke in the house.
Yeah.
But my umbrella broke the other day. And so, yeah, I know. Great timing, right? And it's like 96 today or whatever.
Yeah,
and
heat wave.
Yeah, I can't let this computer just sit in direct sunlight because it's going to overheat and it's going to totally just screw up this whole podcast. So I've got to kind of shuffle around right here. I got to figure something out, man. I just need to turn that guest room downstairs into a smoking room.
Yeah. Smoking room / padded room for recording.
That's exactly right. And I have the idea. I think I pretty much have it well fleshed out in my head. And I've said this before, but I just want to put a ductless AC in there.
Mm-hmm.
Cut off the vent so there's no return. Smoke doesn't get into anywhere else in the house. And then put in a rabbit air for filtration and maybe a vent fan in there. And that way it'll have like a negative airflow. So you open the door to the room, nothing comes out.
Yeah.
So that'll be my podcast / smoking room. And
yeah,
I just need to make it happen and just tell my wife I love her. We'll just say that.
Get you a paint your wall green so you can have a fireplace on the screen behind you.
All that, all that cool stuff. But anyway, so what else? You've got a lot of irons in the fire. It sounds like with JXB Media, you've got more going on than just the Glorious Beard, obviously. So what all is JXB involved in?
So we've got the podcast, The Glorious Beard. We, of course, have our social media presence, which I kind of see as a separate thing from the podcast, because a lot of what we show on the Instagram and the YouTube is quick informationals, quick biographies, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Our social media team is amazing. Aside from that, we take a lot of our audio packages from our podcast and we translate them into video packages. The longer ones get put on our YouTube, and now we are taking those longer video packages and turning them into half an hour long television programs with a host. So we've got, I don't know that we've settled on a name for the television show yet, but it'll be something related to the Glorious Beard. So we've got the television show.
But it's not on yet, though, right?
No, not yet.
Okay,
Not
so
yet.
do you have it lined up as to where it can be found yet, or is that still in the works?
It will eventually end up being found on YouTube, and then we will, after it gets established, we're gonna look for syndication in other areas.
Okay.
Yeah. Aside from the podcast, the social media, and the television show, we also are doing terrestrial radio. I host a 2-hour weekly specialty program on a radio station where I'm at, and one of our other talents, Damian Miller, I just secured him a 2-hour radio show so he's hosting his show, and both of those things are produced through JXB. And then later on down the line, we are looking at another project, which is very much in its infancy. But if it pans out, we'll see syndication for that as well. So, yeah, a lot going on. A lot of really great, awesome, talented people behind it as well. You would not know it, but on our podcast, there's about 35 to 40 people that make the podcast happen. It is a large crew.
No, that's a huge involvement. I mean, especially when I consider mine. If you count my guest, there's 2 people involved.
Well, maybe pretty soon it'll be Sunday Afternoon Smokes presented by JXB Media if you need to take the load off.
You never know. It's a pretty simple thing as far as what I've got happening now. But, I do want it to grow. And I've said this before. I mean, my goal with my podcast was really to work at growing a local grassroots thing, highlighting the upstate where I live and dovetailing it with advertising a couple of things. Number one, the business that my guest operates in the upstate, connecting them with the community, and then advertising my cigar business and my real estate. And then it helps me network and meet other people for my businesses. And it's just super fun. But I want it to, like anybody who has a podcast, you want it to grow.
Yeah.
You want the listenership up. Will Sunday Afternoon Smokes, or SAS for short, will it ever get to the point where it's monetized? Who knows? Would that be nice? Yeah, but I don't necessarily do it for that. I do it because I enjoy it. Back to your mantra, if it's no longer fun.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the things that I've recently realized in what we're doing is just the improvement in my mental health. The process of the art, the creation of it, putting it all together, watching a product come from simple ideas into being something that everyone is proud of and everyone enjoys, and that goes out there into the internet ether and Ethernet and all that stuff, and just lives beyond all of us. The process for me in doing that, in doing my radio program, I realized one day my mental health is really great, in regards to that. Like because I've always been an artist. My mother was a painter and a ceramicist and all of that. I grew up in a ceramic studio for a short part of my life. I was president of the art club in school, and I've always worked with art, whether it be ceramics or making comic books or whatever. I've always been in art mode, always been in this creating mode. And so I see it, I tell a lot of people, I don't see it as a podcast. I see it as art. It's an art that we're all creating together. And I allow the people on my crew to do their thing. It's like, if I see you doing something well and it's great, I take a step back and I leave you alone with it because it's your art. I'm just there to help you with it. I'm just there to give you my perspective. And I found that, like, the way in which it improves my mental health to be creating this podcast, to be creating my radio program and whatever else I do in media has just lifted me up a lot. Because, going through a divorce, something that I never wish on anyone,
No,
on either party, on
been
either side, it's
been
difficult.
there.
And especially if you have children, if you have, sick loved ones or whatever you have, it's difficult. And you sometimes don't know what to do in the aftermath of that. So having that thing that really lifts you up and improves your life and allows you to improve the life of others, especially for me, it's a great thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. Well, let me say to you, whoever's listening, are you ready to make a real estate move in Greenville, South Carolina? Maybe you live here, you want to sell your house and get top dollar because the demand is high. Or maybe you are out of state and you want to move to the number one destination in the country. As a local realtor with C. Joyner and a member of Nexus Group, I strive to get you the best deal in the shortest amount of time with the least amount of disturbance to your life. Let's find your place in Greenville, South Carolina. Call me today, 864-207-2316, or visit my website, Chris Strother, that's Strother, chrisstrother.cdanjoyner.com. All right, Bob. Look, man, growing up in the Appalachian region, getting up to Cincinnati, Ohio, where does hockey come from?
So when I was in high school, I'm standing there one day in the hallway and I'm looking around and I'm noticing that the football team all have like the beautiful girls on their
Yeah.
arm. And I'm looking at them, I'm like, that's something I would like. So I go to my mom and I say, Mom, I want to try out for the school football team. And she goes, oh, you can't do that. You'll get hurt, blah, blah, blah. You'll break an arm. You'll break this. You'll break that.
That's mom's.
And I
My
said,
mom did not want me to play high school football either.
well, I'm about the same size that I was then. You're much more suited for football than I ever was. I had different
didn't
motives.
play.
No, well,
I
that's
played in middle school, and I found out quickly I didn't like getting hit.
oh yeah.
So, but I was good at baseball, so that's what I did.
Well, adjacent. Well, I played baseball growing up too. I was never really good at that, but adjacent to all of that, this was back in the day when hockey was on ESPN.
Yeah.
And so I would watch hockey games at night. It was weird sport to watch where I was in West Virginia. And I thought, man, that's something that I really want to look at them punching each other. Look at them beating each other up, look
Legal assault.
slamming each other around and going fast. I'm like, wow, that's really appealing. So when my mom turned me down on the high school football thing, I just looked at her. I said, okay, that's fine. I had always grown up with a skating rink nearby. That's about all we had to do in my small town. So that's when I found a hockey team about an hour away, like a place where I could go and play rec hockey. And I would say, oh, I'm going to so-and-so's house for the weekend. I'll be back on Sunday.
For the weekend.
But I was going and sleeping on somebody's couch and I started playing rec hockey. When I got into college, I found a Saturday morning rec hockey, like Bad News Bears type situation. And I played hockey. When I got to Cincinnati, we're driving past this place one day and it says, play hockey here. And I'm like, pull into the parking lot right now. So I got into it and had always been playing since then. And so that's it's been over 2 decades, and quickly formed a reputation. And my dentist looks at me one day, and he's going over my teeth, and he goes, "Didn't you tell me you play hockey?" And I said, "Yeah." And he goes, "Didn't you tell me you were like the goon, like the enforcer guy who goes out and beats people up?" I said, "Yeah." And he goes, how are your teeth still so nice?" And I said, I just looked at him and I go, "Never lost a fight."
There you go.
Listen, I knew I was never going to be Wayne Gretzky.
Sure.
I knew I was never going to be like a Chris Chelios or
Mark
whatever.
Lemieux.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Mario Lemieux, all of that.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah.
But I knew one thing that I could do, and I knew that I had a lot of pent up stuff in me from my life. So I went out there and did it quite well for 2-minute increments, and sometimes 5-minute increments, and sometimes I wouldn't be allowed back on the game. So there you go.
And you still play?
Yeah, I still play today. Yeah.
Yeah. So what's the how often do y'all play weekly? What do you do? Or like, are you in a league or?
Yeah, the league that I'm in now, I used to play every Sunday. We played almost every Sunday throughout the year in my previous league. In the league where I'm at now, we play January through July. So the last games of the season are going to be coming up next month. And then there's an extended break until January, and then we'll start back up in January again.
Yeah, do y'all do in your league? Do you y'all do playoffs and championship and all that stuff? So how's the team? Where are you guys sitting?
Right now, I think we're in 4th place, which isn't too bad.
How many teams are in the league?
I think 10.
Okay,
I think there's 10 teams.
That'll be enough to get you into the postseason.
Yeah, it should be. And then they have a summer event too, like a summer tournament where you can do mixed teams and stuff and play for a cup. So that's usually in August.
Now, look, I'm not super familiar with hockey, but there's what, including your goalie, there's 6 men on the ice?
In a regular ice game, yeah. In my league, we play on a smaller rink, so we do 4-on-4 instead of 5-on-5.
Okay, 4-on-4 plus your goalie.
Yeah, plus a goalie.
Okay, 4-on-4 plus your goalie, and I mean, are you a regular starter? Or are you still the guy that's the enforcer, and you're jumping in? And somebody needs to learn.
In my current league, it's really, really frowned upon. So I've and plus in my older age now, I'm slowing down a little bit. So
yeah,
I've kind of taken a back seat to my bad behavior.
Okay.
And started enjoying the game for what it is a little bit more. Yeah. So I don't quite have the reputation in my new league that I did in my old league. Okay. I'll put it that way. In my old league, though, I was very well known. And to the point where I took a couple of years off for a bit. And when I came back, all of these new guys are like, "Oh, you're Bob." Like my reputation still carried on whether I was there or not. So
yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
I'm Bob.
Yeah. Well, I had a certain nickname, but I can't say it on.
Sure. Yeah. No, that's fine.
Say it on the air.
That's totally fine. And then, man, something I'm super interested in. So, what did you do for Major League Baseball? Because I'm a baseball guy.
Sure.
I think it's the best of all the sports. I played it for a number of years. Did some fun things with it. So, how do you wind up working for the Cincinnati Reds?
Sure, yeah. So growing up, we were always Cincinnati Reds fans. My father played baseball in Indiana to the point where he was being scouted by major league teams. He was a pitcher. And he was like a hair away from going in the minor leagues. And then he met my mother. So they moved to West Virginia. And he continued to coach baseball. He coached Little League and high school league and stuff like that where we were there in West Virginia because he had a big passion for the game. He had a big passion for mentoring children and that kind of thing. And when I got old enough, I started playing in the Little League there at the city park. But we were always Cincinnati fans because it was the closest team to us. So those were the Pete Rose days, that kind of thing. The Red,
who is now eligible for the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, that's good.
It is. I just hate that they waited until he died.
Yeah, well,
I just feel like that's just a punk move.
Well, it's the big Red Machine days and the wire to wire and all that, and so we were always Reds fans. Fast forward to later, I moved to Cincinnati. I'm working in a studio where I'm recording these bands, and a band comes in one day that's local, but they're very popular, and they see what I'm doing, they see how I'm working, we get to talking to each other, and they say, "Well, can you do a live concert video?" And I said, "Yeah, I got a crew, I can do a live concert video." And they said, we're doing this concert at this place on this day, and we need a crew to come in and film it and turn it into a DVD. I said, cool, I've got you. I'll do that for X amount of dollars. So I bring in my crew, we do our camera setup, we shoot the concert video. I put it all together, I edit it, I ship it off to him. He looks at it and he goes, this is really great. I said, yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. And he goes, would you like to work for the Cincinnati Reds? And I said, yeah, I would. And he goes, I'm the director of video operations, of media operations at the Cincinnati Reds. Come on down. And I said, cool. So I got in, and you know how when you go to a baseball game and you see all the stuff happening on all the boards, the scoreboards and all that, and all the lights and the music and all that sort of thing, that's the crew that I got on. So for about 5 years, I ran camera at third base for the scoreboard, for Fox Sports and all, and got hit with a lot of foul balls. Stood in the sun a lot. Had a lot of good times, and I did that until I moved. And
Nice.
When I moved away, I couldn't do it anymore.
Sure. No, that's super fun. Are you still? Do you keep up with baseball?
Yeah. I'm on a fantasy baseball team with my friends, and I try my best to catch a game. It's not always the easiest thing to do. If there's a day game on where I'm at, I can catch one. But yeah, man, I've just always loved baseball. I played second base and right field, and was mediocre at it, but enjoyed it nonetheless.
Sure. You still a Reds fan?
Yeah, still a Reds fan.
Yeah, I haven't kept up with it. I mean, I just kind of stick with my team, which is Atlanta, and they're having a crazy, weird season. I mean, they stink, and they're just doing – I just said to my dad last night, they're the opposite of everything you think they're going to be. They should be really good with their lineup, but they're just not clicking. And then you
look at the Cincinnati Reds, and you think Atlanta's not so bad.
Well, I guess. I don't know. Like I said, I don't really keep up with the Reds, but it's like Atlanta, okay, you're having this really crap season, and then you go and you sweep the Mets, and then you lose a 1-2 series to the freaking Marlins.
Yeah.
And then you beat the Mets again last night. And it's like, what is going on?
And the Marlins are like dumpster level.
They're trash. They were like when they played the Marlins, when they started the series with the Marlins had there were only 2 teams in the entire league worse than the Marlins. And you lose 2 out of 3 games to the Marlins. I just don't understand. Baseball's a weird game.
It is, man. It really is. Like when I worked at the Reds, this was in the days of Ken Griffey Jr., Adam Dunn, and all of that. And Jay Bruce came up at that time, and that was the one year they went to the playoffs. They go to the first round and get beat. But you'd sit here and you'd watch these guys just stink on ice night after night. Then they get traded away to a different team, and that team would go on to win the World Series, and they would go on to, they'd go from a 200 average to a 350 average. And you just got to think, was it the player or is it the coaching staff? When you've got a guy consecutively swinging in the dirt and then he gets traded away and he's hitting home runs, where's the problem?
Yeah, I don't know. There's, managers can make some really goofy decisions, and that plays a big part of the game. But it's just also players have to execute.
Yeah.
There's that tug of war between the problem with our team is not the talent, it's the manager, and he puts in stupid relief pitchers or stupid pinch hitters at the wrong time. And then there's the other part of the game where it's like a guy that should be a star, you've got runners in scoring position and you're striking out at the plate. That's not the manager's fault. You got to hit the ball, man. I don't know.
Because back in the days of Sparky Anderson with the Reds, Sparky managed the team like a military operation. And if you were on the mound and you walked one guy, he would eyeball you. If you walked a second guy, he pulled you off the mound.
You're done.
He didn't put up with that stuff.
Yeah.
And those were the years they won. So maybe there's something to be said there.
Yeah. All right, man, let's hit one more thing and then we'll wrap it up because I'm going to be trapped in the sun here, and that's no bueno.
Yeah.
So I know obviously you've done just almost everything under the sun when it comes to media, and you're also heavily involved in voiceover work, doing, like you said, you read, you just sit and talk all day long,
Yeah.
like 20,000 words a day. Yeah. So what are you doing? Like, what all are you doing on voiceover, man? You're
Yeah,
not
it's
reading audiobooks.
well, sometimes it's funny when somebody asks me what I do and I say, "Oh, I'm a voiceover actor." They think it's this glamorous like Ford and Pizza Hut commercials and stuff like that, and like, "Where have I heard you?" You know? And I'm like, "I don't know, maybe in an airport in Germany or something."
Right.
Cuz like a lot of what I do is what we call corporate work.
Yeah.
So you get hired at a place and you have to watch some training video on sexual harassment or,
Right.
how to not use your personal email to do business for the company.
Right.
I do that kind of stuff.
Yeah. You're not voicing in Pixar films.
No,
Like,
no.
yeah. That's
So I
what people
do,
think about.
yeah, that's what people think, but it's like all that stuff's going to celebrities these days.
Right.
I do a lot of employee compliance training. I do a lot of medical modules.
Yeah.
I have surprisingly a handful of clients in the UAE because I do English overdubs of like Punjabi and Hindi and stuff like that. I do radio commercials in the Midwest for small market radio stations because they don't have a budget. So I'm like, yeah, pay me $5, I'll do your commercial.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. So if you're ever in Lake Havasu, Arizona, listen to the radio, you'll hear my
You'll
voice.
hear the voice of Bob McCoy.
And I do some YouTube stuff for different high level YouTube channels, but most of what I do, like today, I did 4 training modules for a company in the UAE. I do work for major credit card companies out there, health companies.
Yeah.
What else have I done today? Yeah, I work for a Dutch media company that puts together, presentations for third party companies to like product placement, product description stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot of that kind of stuff.
It's wild out there. Like people don't, and I'm trying to break into some of that. I hadn't found the only thing I've done so far, is JXB in the social media for the Glorious Beard. I did a voiceover for a small stop motion animation thing that's coming out later this year in the voice of Jeremy Ant. But I haven't found the right thing where I've gotten more opportunities. But like when you create a profile on various websites, you find all kinds of stuff, whether it's some weird sci-fi audio book or this pharmaceutical company needs something for an ad, or it's just it's not all the glamour, but right. And I probably won't ever get there, and I don't care, but I'm trying new things. I think I have some talent for it, but there's just, like you said, there's a lot of stuff out there people don't think about. Yeah, you're on some weird commercial in an airport somewhere that nobody's ever going to listen to.
Yeah. It's the Wild West. It really is. Especially because if you want those big jobs like, Toyota and all that, you've either got to live in like New York or Los Angeles or just be really good to be able to do it from home. Not saying that I'm not good. I'm just good in a different part of the business,
Yeah.
And I've been doing it a long time, and thankfully, I can do it as a full-time job. Not a lot of people can.
No, that's cool, man. I'm glad you've got those talents and you've made a career out of it, and good for you. Good for you. Well, look, I'm excited to see where the Glorious Beard goes. And by the way, if you're not following the Glorious Beard on Instagram, give them a follow. Check out the YouTube channel. And of course, everywhere great podcasts can be found.
Yep. And the gloriousbeard.com,
Oh, okay. I didn't know that was up.
Oh yeah. We've had the website up for a while.
Okay, yeah. I haven't checked that out. I need to go check it out. Shame on me. I'm part of the team and haven't looked at it.
It's still kind of like, it's sparse because it's just me doing it, and I only do it every once in a while when I think about it. But,
okay.
There's stuff there. All of our episodes are there. Different content from the YouTube's there. That kind of thing. Yeah,
sweet. All right, man. Well, let's wrap it up. Bob, thanks for your time, man. I enjoyed the conversation.
Yeah, it was a great pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. I'm sorry you didn't get to get out and have your pipe.
Yeah, maybe next time.
Maybe the weather will be better tomorrow.
Yeah.
I
Well,
don't know.
where I'm at, you never know.
You never know. Yeah, it's a toss-up. As far as the Connor McGregor Notorious, I didn't find it harsh, and it wasn't as robust as I expected it to be. It was more of a medium stick, but there was definitely it was nutty, and like the beginning of the cigar, what I really got out of it was a nice healthy dose of cocoa, and so that was good. Went really well with the morning coffee. So yeah, pick up some Conor McGregor Notorious cigars, and if you're Bob, if you need a restock,
Yeah,
let me know.
always.
I can send you a few
Do
things.
you drink your coffee black or with anything in it?
No, I put a splash of cream in my coffee. I don't find any joy in black coffee.
Yeah.
That's just me. That's
I'm
just
just
that.
I'm just wondering if it would affect the cigar, you know?
Yeah, I'm sure it would. Anytime when you're imbibing things, whether it's coffee or whiskey or cigars or whatever. I mean, it's all subjective, but whenever you start adding different elements to whatever you're consuming, it takes on a whole new thing. So I'd be interested to try it with just straight black coffee. So anyway, all right, everybody, thanks for listening. You've been checking out Sunday Afternoon Smokes. Again, leave me a review, share it with your friends, share it with your family on your socials, share it with the world, because Sunday Afternoon Smokes is pretty sweet. And don't forget, follow The Glorious Beard on Instagram and YouTube. Bob, thanks for your time. We'll talk
Thank
to you
you.
soon.
Yes,
Alrighty.
sir.
Have a good day.